This is Everyday Tension. Real stories based on real experiences about everyday conflicts people rarely talk about. This story was shared anonymously. If you'd like, you can support the channel by liking or subscribing and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Here's what happened.
It all started with the baby's name. That's what I keep coming back to. Not the big obvious things that happened later, but that first stupid argument. My daughter, Sarah, was about 7 months pregnant. She and Jake were over for a Sunday dinner, the kind we tried to have every few weeks. Things felt normal, or as normal as they ever did with Jake, which was a sort of careful, polite normal. He was always perfectly polite to me. Too polite, sometimes. It felt like there was a sheet of glass between us. We were clearing the plates. Sarah was waddling a bit, one hand on her lower back. She looked tired but happy. She mentioned offhand, like it was nothing, that she'd been thinking about names. She said she really loved the name Clara, my mother's name. My mother had died 2 years before, and it had hit Sarah hard. They were close. Closer than Sarah and I had been, if I'm honest. Jake stopped, a stack of dishes in his hands. He got this look on his face, a sort of closed-off, firm look. He said, "We talked about this. We liked Madison." Sarah's smile wouldn't exactly fade, but it stiffened. "We discussed Madison. I said I thought it was okay, but I've been thinking about it more. Clara feels right. It means something. Madison means something to me," Jake said. His voice was even. "Too even. It's my grandma's middle name." "We agreed. We didn't agree, Jake. You said you liked it and I said it was pretty. That's not an agreement. I just stood there by the sink, holding a wet sponge. I didn't know where to look." This was their conversation, but I was right there. I felt like I was intruding just by breathing. "It's a classic name," Jake said, turning to put the dishes in the sink. He didn't look at her. "Clara sounds old. It's an old lady name." "That's a horrible thing to say," Sarah said, and her voice cracked a little. "She wasn't just some old lady, she was my grandma. I know who she was." Jake finally looked at her, and his expression wasn't angry. It was dismissive. Like she was being silly. "But this is our kid too. Not just yours, I get a say." The way he said "too" stuck with me. It felt like an accusation he'd been holding on to. "I'm not saying you don't get a say," Sarah said, but her arms were crossed over her big belly, a defensive posture. "I'm saying I feel really strongly about Clara." "Well, I feel really strongly about Madison." They stared at each other. It was quiet except for the drip of the faucet. I finally moved, wiping down the counter just to have something to do. "We don't have to decide tonight," I said, trying to sound light. It came out sounding weak. Jake glanced at me, then back at Sarah. "Fine, but we're not naming her Clara." He walked out of the kitchen and went to sit in the living room, turning on the TV. The conversation was over, as far as he was concerned. Sarah stood there for a minute, her eyes shiny. Then she started wiping the table, her movements jerky. "He'll come around," she muttered, more to herself than to me. "He's just being stubborn. Once he holds her, he won't care what her name is." I didn't say anything. I wasn't so sure. Jake had a way of digging his heels in. I'd seen it before, with smaller things. Which restaurant to go to, what movie to watch. He'd give in eventually, but he'd be quiet and sullen about it for the rest of the night, making the whole evening tense. This felt bigger. That was the start of it. After that, the name thing became a low-grade fever in their relationship. Sarah told me later they didn't fight about it constantly, but it was always there. She'd bring up Clara, maybe suggest it as a first name with Madison as a middle name. He'd shut it down. He started calling the baby Maddie when he talked to her belly. Sarah hated that. She said it felt like he was trying to claim the baby before she was even born, to stamp his preference on her so firmly that it would just become a fact. Sarah got more stubborn in response. It wasn't like her. She's usually more of a peacemaker. But the pregnancy, the hormones, the memory of my mother, it all hardened something in her. She started referring to the baby as Clara in her own head, and sometimes she'd slip and say it out loud to me. Clara was kicking all night. I think Clara's gonna have your nose, Mum. It was like she was building a reality where the name was already decided and she was just waiting for Jake to catch up. I tried to stay out of it. Really, I did. Every time Sarah vented to me, I'd say things like, "You two will figure it out," or, "The most important thing is a healthy baby." Neutral stuff. But I guess by not telling her to just drop it, by listening to her, I was picking a side. In Jake's eyes, anyway. The due date got closer. The tension didn't go away. They stopped talking about names altogether, which was worse. It was this big, silent lump in the middle of the room. Sarah focused on the nursery, on baby clothes. Jake painted the room. He put together the crib. They went to birthing classes together. On the surface, they were a team. That Sarah seemed lonely. She came over to my house more often, just to sit. She'd rub her belly and stare out the window, not saying much. Then, her water broke. It was 3 a.m. She called me, panicked. "Mom, it's time. My water broke. I can't get a hold of Jake. Where is he?" He went out with his brother. His phone goes straight to voicemail. I've called 6 times. I could hear the tears in her voice, the fear. "Okay," I said, already pulling on my jeans. "I'm coming right now. Call the hospital. Let them know you're coming. I'll be there in 15 minutes. When I got to their apartment, she was standing in the hallway, holding her overnight bag, her coat on over her pajamas. She looked so young and scared. We drove to the hospital in near silence, just the sound of her breathing through the early contractions. I kept glancing at her phone in the cup holder. No calls from Jake. We got checked in. The nurses were kind. They got Sarah into a gown, hooked up to monitors. The contractions were getting stronger. Still no word from Jake. Sarah had stopped trying to call him. She just handed me her phone and said, "If he calls, tell him where we are." Her voice was flat. The hurt was turning into something harder. An hour went by, then 2. The sun came up. A nurse came in to check dilation. Sarah was at 5 centimeters. It was moving along. Finally, at around 8 a.m, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was Jake. I answered it in the hallway. "Jake? It's Linda. Sarah's in labor. We're at Mercy General, room 412. There was a pause. I could hear noise in the background, like a diner. "What? Now? Is she okay?" "She's okay. She's in labor. You need to get here." Okay. I'm coming. I need to get cleaned up. I'll be there." He hung up. I stood there in the hallway for a minute. I need to get cleaned up. He'd been out all night. I felt a sharp spike of anger for my daughter. I pushed it down and went back into the room. "He's on his way," I told Sarah. She just nodded, her eyes squeezed shut against a contraction. He didn't come. Another hour passed. Sarah asked for an epidural. The anesthesiologist came. The process calmed her a bit, took the edge off the pain. She kept looking at the door. "Did you tell him the room number?" she asked me. "Yes, honey," I told him. At 10:30, he texted her phone. I saw it light up. I picked it up. The message said, "This is insane. I'm so stressed. This whole thing is gross and overwhelming. I need a minute." I showed it to Sarah. She read it, her face blank. Then she turned her head away on the pillow and closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down into her hairline. She didn't say anything. The nurse came in later, around noon. Sarah was fully dilated. It was time to push. The nurse was cheerful, encouraging. Is Dad on his way? Should we wait? Sarah opened her eyes. They were clear and dry. No, she said, her voice firm. He's not coming. Let's go. So I was there. I held one of her legs. A nurse held the other. I watched my granddaughter enter the world. It was the most terrifying and beautiful thing I've ever seen. Sarah was incredible, strong and focused. When the baby was placed on her chest, this tiny, red, squalling thing, Sarah started crying. So did I. It was just us. And for that moment, it was enough. They did the checks, the weighing, the footprints. Sarah nursed her for the first time. We were in a quiet, exhausted bubble. The baby slept. Sarah dozed. I sat in the chair by the window, buzzing with tired adrenaline. It was after 3 p.m. when the nurse came back with a clipboard. Time to do the birth certificate paperwork, she said brightly. Have you decided on a name? Sarah was awake, holding the baby. She looked at the nurse, then down at her daughter's face. She looked lost and tired, so deeply tired. Clara, Sarah said, softly but clearly. Her name is Clara. The nurse wrote it down. Beautiful. And the father's information? For the certificate? Sarah's eyes flicked to me, then back to the nurse. He's not listed. The nurse paused. Are you sure? It can be added later, but it's more complicated. I'm sure, Sarah said. Her voice was stronger now. He wasn't here. He doesn't get to be on this. I didn't say a word. What could I say? She was right. He wasn't there. He'd called the most important moment of their lives gross and stressful. He'd chosen not to come. In that moment, I agreed with her. It felt like a just consequence, a natural result of his actions. The nurse finished the forms and left. Silence in the room felt heavy, final. Maybe an hour later, there was a tentative knock on the door. I got up and opened it a crack. It was Jake. He looked awful, pale, unshaven, his eyes bloodshot. He smelled like stale smoke and coffee. How is she? He asked, trying to peer past me. She's resting. The baby's here. She's healthy. A girl? He tried to smile. It was a weak, nervous thing. A girl. I didn't step aside. I don't know why. Maybe to protect Sarah from seeing him like that. Maybe because I was so angry on her behalf. Maybe it was just instinct. Now's not a good time, Jake. She's exhausted. She doesn't want to see anyone right now. His face changed. The nervousness was replaced by confusion, then a flash of anger. I'm not anyone. I'm the father. I want to see my daughter. She needs to sleep, I said, and my voice was firmer than I meant it to be. Come back later. Is this because I wasn't here right on time? For Christ's sake, Linda, I was freaking out. It's a big deal. It is a big deal, I said. And you weren't here for it. She went through it alone. Give her some space. He stared at me. I could see him trying to decide whether to push past me. For a second, I thought he might. Then his shoulders slumped. Fine, tell her I came by. Tell her I'll be back. I closed the door. I turned around. Sarah was awake, watching me, the baby in her arms. Was that him? Yeah. What did he want? To see you. To see the baby. I told him to come back later. She nodded, looking down at Clara. Okay. I thought that was it. I thought he'd go home, shower, sleep, and come back in the evening with flowers, full of apologies. That's what should have happened. He did come back. The next morning. He brought a little teddy bear. Sarah was more rested. Clara was sleeping in the clear bassinet by the bed. When Jake walked in, Sarah's face was careful, neutral. "Hey," he said. He walked over to the bassinet and looked in. His expression softened. "Hey, little Maddie, you're so tiny." Sarah's mouth tightened. "Her name is Clara." Jake straightened up slowly. He looked from Sarah to me and back to Sarah. "What?" "I named her Clara, after my grandmother." The silence was absolute. I could hear the hum of the hospital hallway. You named her? Without me?" "You weren't here," Sarah said. Her voice was quiet but steady. The nurse needed the name for the birth certificate. "You weren't here to discuss it, so you just decided? By yourself?" His voice was rising. "You decided not to be here," she shot back. "You texted me that it was gross, and you were too stressed. What was I supposed to do? Wait for me?" "I'm the father. Or are you?" The question hung in the air. It was cruel. I saw Sarah regret it as soon as she said it, but she didn't take it back. Jake's face went white. He took a step back from the bassinet, as if the baby herself had become repellent. He looked at me, and the look was pure, hot hatred. "This is you," he said, his voice shaking. "This is all you. You've been poisoning her against me this whole time. You got her to do this. You stole my daughter." "Jake, no," Sarah started. But he wasn't listening. He pointed a finger at me. "You kept me from seeing her yesterday. You told her to do this. You wanted a piece of her for yourself, and you took it." He threw the teddy bear on the floor. "You can have her. Both of you. You made your choice." He turned and walked out. He didn't slam the door. He just left. Sarah started sobbing, great heaving sobs that shook the bed. I went to her, tried to hold her, but she pushed me away. "Go after him," she cried. "Tell him to come back." So I did. I ran into the hallway. He was already at the elevator, stabbing the button. "Jake, wait!" He turned. The look on his face stopped me cold. It was beyond anger. It was a final, settled disgust. "Don't talk to me. You've done enough. You've got what you wanted. Stay away from me." The elevator doors opened, and he got in. He never looked back. That was 3 months ago. He hasn't seen Clara, not once. Sarah tried calling him, the first few weeks. He'd answer sometimes. The conversations were short and horrible. He'd ask if she'd fixed the birth certificate, if she'd changed the name. She'd say no. He'd call her selfish. He'd say her mother had brainwashed her. Then he'd hang up. Now, he doesn't answer at all. His family got involved. His mother called me. She screamed at me over the phone. She called me a meddling witch. She said I'd ruined her son's life, that I'd stolen his firstborn child because I was a bitter, lonely woman. She said Sarah was weak for listening to me. I listened until she ran out of breath. Then I hung up. My hands were trembling. Sarah is heartbroken in a way that's hard to watch. It's a quiet, relentless heartbreak. She takes care of Clara. She's a good mom. But the light in her eyes from that first day in the hospital is gone. She's just going through the motions. She blames herself. She blames me sometimes too. I can tell. She doesn't say it, but it's in the way she sighs sometimes when I come over, or the way she'll say, "If only you'd let him in that day. Maybe he would have stayed." Maybe she's right. I think about that a lot. If I had just stepped aside at the door, if I had said, "She's in here, come on in," maybe seeing Clara would have melted his anger and out the name. Maybe the sight of his daughter would have washed all the stupid arguments away. Maybe my interference at that exact moment was the thing that tipped the whole precarious situation over the edge. But then I think about Sarah's face when she read his text, the look of complete abandonment. I think about her pushing for hours with no one but me and a nurse she'd just met. He chose not to be there. He made that choice. All I did was echo it back to him at the door. I was the wall, but he built the wall first. It's a mess, a tangled, ugly mess with no way out. Clara is growing. She smiles now. She has a gummy, wonderful smile. She has no idea that her father wants nothing to do with her because of the name she was given. She has no idea that her mother cries when she thinks no one is looking. She has no idea that her grandmother lies awake at night, running through every moment, every word, wondering which one was the mistake. I help out as much as I can. I babysit so Sarah can take a shower or nap. I buy diapers. I hold Clara and sing to her, the same lullabies I sang to Sarah. Sometimes, when I'm holding her and she's sleeping against my chest, I feel a crushing wave of guilt. This is what he accused me of wanting. This closeness, this role, and I have it. Did I somehow, subconsciously, make choices to ensure I would have it? I don't know. I don't think so. But I can't know for sure. Sarah talks about maybe changing Clara's name legally, just to Madison, as a last-ditch effort. She asks me what I think. I tell her it's her decision. I don't tell her what I really think, which is that it's too late. That if he only wants her on the condition that she has a different name, then he doesn't want her, Clara. He wants some other baby. A baby that doesn't have my mother's ghost in her name. A baby that doesn't have my fingerprints anywhere near her. But I keep that to myself. It's not my place anymore. I think I learned that too late. So we go on. Day by day, Clara will start to ask questions eventually. Sarah will have to find a way to explain. I'll probably be the one she blames. Maybe that's fair. I live with the consequences of that day in the hallway every single day. I see it in my daughter's tired eyes. I see it in the empty space where her father should be. I tell myself I was just trying to protect her in a vulnerable moment. But protection can look a lot like possession from the outside. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I just don't know.